Hello everyone and welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be talking about the M1 MacBook Pro as well as the M1 MacBook Air. This is basically going to cover whether you should get one of these coming from a Windows laptop or just generally if you're looking for a better laptop in 2025 without having to spend thousands on a brand new one. So I specifically picked this laptop coming from a ThinkPad X395 with a Ryzen 5 3500U. It was a pretty good laptop for most things. Even 1080p 60fps video editing in Premiere Pro was completely fine. The main flaw to that machine was the thermals and the battery life. Obviously the CPU was kind of old and somewhat powerful. I wanted something that could do a bit more, but don't get me wrong, that laptop was amazing, and I did actually make a review about it a little while ago. If you do wish to go check that out, I will put it in the card in the corner. ThinkPad X395, a fantastic laptop for cheap. If I wasn't doing 4K editing, for example, I would have kept it. So after this laptop, I ended up purchasing an Acer Swift Go OLED. It had a Core Ultra 5 125H, 16 gigs of RAM, and I think 512 gig NVMe. It was very, very powerful in terms of specifications, and that OLED screen was really nice. However, it was only good when it didn't throttle, and that laptop had a very bad issue for throttling. It would do it all of the time, 100 degrees Celsius, and for my American friends, that is the boiling point of water. This laptop thinks it's a MacBook. It looks like one, and it acts like one. It's only installing drivers, and we're at 101 degrees. I don't know what to do. What do you do in this situation? Oh, it's gone away now. That meant that it always ran a bit slower than it should have. Horrible battery life. And I also just had that constant fear of the laptop just absolutely cooking itself. Not exactly ideal. I did send it back, and thankfully Currys actually did refund me quite promptly through their eBay store. I got in touch with my friend WaffleTM, and I will link his channel, and I asked him what laptop he suggested to get for about £400, because I wanted to get something good that would last and wouldn't suck. I wanted something that would have really nice battery life, credible specifications for what I wanted it to do, so 4K editing, decent performance on the go basically. Just something that would be an all-round nice laptop, and he helped me pick this 2020 MacBook Pro. So this is the M1 variant, 16 gigs of RAM, and unfortunately it is the 256 gig storage, so that is a bit of a pain because these have soldered RAM and storage, but it's still a really good laptop, and the fact I got 16 gig for under 400 was really good. And this cost me £389.99, so 390 quid. These normally go for about 450, and I'll be completely honest with you, if I wasn't to get this, I would have just got the Air, because the Air and the Pro, at least at this era, are basically the exact same, other than this one just has a fan. When video editing, that fan's useful, otherwise it never kicks on. I'll show you right now. I'm recording the screen and just on the desktop, I'm running at 30 degrees on the CPU. The fan isn't even on. You know, this laptop is incredibly power efficient. Yeah, in terms of thermals, this is amazing. That fan, you won't really need it unless you're properly pushing this thing. I'm calling this a review of the Pro and the Air because that's mainly the only difference. There are also some minor improvements to the speakers and the microphone. Other than that, they're virtually the same laptop. So if you see an Air going for cheaper than this, and it's a 16 gig RAM variant for similar money to what I paid, I would just get it. It's very, very similar. I have spent the last month with this laptop, and it has honestly been pretty solid. Normally, I don't buy Apple stuff. Since the beginning, I've always been a hardcore Android user. Obviously not this specific one. My first phone was an Xperia XZ1, I got a Galaxy A52, a Galaxy S23, and now a Xiaomi 15. So I've never had an Apple iPhone other than an SE2, which I had for a month because my A52 broke. And so this was my first ever actual Apple product that I wanted to use. It's quite interesting coming from a Windows and Android background to using a MacBook standalone. I don't have any iPhones. It's a bit different to having the whole Apple ecosystem. So let's get on to the pros and cons of this laptop. But starting with the pros, of course, you got to start on a positive note. I want to start with the battery life because that is the key standout point to this laptop in my opinion. This gets through a day easily. Regardless of what you're doing, you can most likely get through the entire day on a single charge, unless you are absolutely pushing it 4K 60fps video editing the whole time, motion tracking in DaVinci Resolve. Maybe you'll have to charge it at 5 o'clock in the evening. That is incredible coming from an Acer laptop that got 3 hours, and before that a ThinkPad that got an hour. Having that ability to just use it when I need it without having to worry about charging it before I leave. I just charge it in the night and I know it'll get through the day. I can get through 2 or 3 days on a charge. For instance, it's on 37 and I've been using it since yesterday at some point. The nice thing about this, you don't have to worry about the battery. You just charge it when it needs charging and then use it like you would your phone. Considering this battery life, the performance you can get out of it is flipping crazy. I was doing 4K 60fps editing on battery, ran incredibly the whole time. It runs very smooth. 4K rendering is pretty damn quick. The only time I actually maxed out the CPU on this was when I was motion tracking a 4K 60fps clip on battery, and and it still didn't have the fan on. I don't get it. I was doing like the macOS AI effects, like the reactions and the portrait and the background, because you can do really cool stuff with it. That took a toll on the M1 because it's a lot to render while on a Discord call while screen sharing. And so that's when the fan kicked on a bit, but that is literally the only time it's kicked on in the month and a half I've had it, noticeably I mean. Compared to the Acer, which was full throttle, constantly, very loud, very inefficient. I need to stop repeating myself, but I'm still upset that it wasn't very good. So this is the 13-inch model of the Pro 2020. It is so thin. You get the one hand open. Lovely. The build quality is obviously going to be perfect as Apple. This would have cost well over £1,500 when it was new 5 years ago. So getting this for under £1,000 now, that's good. You know you're going to get a good quality product because it is an Apple product, and that's one thing they don't fail at. You get what you pay for. You get a very nice built machine. Maybe the software is argued to be a bit worse than other options. A nice feature to mention while on the lock screen is you get Touch ID in the home button, so you can just tap it and it lets you straight in, which is a pretty nice addition. My ThinkPad had no fingerprint sensor. My Acer did, but it was hit and miss and kept on bugging out the Windows install regardless of if I use Windows 10 or 11, so that's always great. macOS is okay. It's fine. Coming from Windows, it's a bit to learn, but it's not nearly as bad as the leap from Windows to Linux. Windows to macOS is pretty good. A lot of people will say, and I have to agree, once you get used to one, it's pretty difficult to get used to the other again. For example, this has Command, Option and Control keys, as you may know. This is a very different layout to that on a Windows PC. On a Windows computer, you get your Control, Win and Alt. On a Mac computer, you get those instead, and it's a bit different. The Command key acts like your Control key on that, and I think your Option acts like your Windows. It definitely takes a bit of getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's very handy because you can just do things like Command Space and Search and Spotlight. It's really good. It is definitely a learning curve. If you're like me and switch between Windows and Mac quite a lot, it does take a bit of getting used to on the different layouts, but eventually you get used to it. Sometimes I'll go here and press Control A. It's actually Command A. Same with Control C, Control V, and then on the PC I'll go and press Alt A instead of Control A. You know, little things like that. It does take time. It's not a problem, it's just something worth mentioning. As for the actual software itself, again, it's similar to Windows in the way that it works how you'd expect it to, but there are different quirks. For instance, you have the ability to hide apps, as well as close app windows, as well as close the entire app, like quit the app, I think they call it. You can press Command W to close the window of the app, but that keeps the app open in the background. You can press Command H to hide the window of the app, which doesn't close it, but makes it not visible, or you can press Command Q to completely quit the program. You know, it's a bit different to how on Windows you've just got minimize and close. I do like how a lot of it is system wide, so like if I go to Finder, I can press Command T to open a new tab like you would in Safari or Chrome. So it is pretty good that it is optimized that way. But yeah, you do get used to macOS. It just takes a little bit of time. Things will start to come around. So as for the microphone, speakers and webcam, they are all pretty solid. The speakers are very good on basically all MacBooks. This one in particular sounds amazing. You can listen to Spotify on here without much need to put soundbar on or something. If you just sat in your living room, don't feel like turning the CV on, this sounds fine. I'll give you a quick sound test with the mic that I'm using. It definitely sounds pretty decent considering it's a laptop, much better than either of the other two laptops I had before. The speakers in the Acer were pretty crap and the ThinkPad were fine, but the microphone on this is actually quite a decent mic. You can use it for calls, you can use it for recordings. The microphone itself does actually sound pretty good. You get the option of standard audio as well as voice isolation, which I'm pretty sure does use some kind of AI to make it sound better. And when using Discord, it's pretty nice to have the option to block out fan noise, etc. And I'll give you a quick sample of both modes now. So this is the audio straight from the MacBook in standard mode, and it sounds pretty cromulent either way. When I'm recording things and I don't feel like getting the mic out, it is actually very good. It's surprisingly good considering it's a 13-inch laptop. It's the kind of mic quality I get from my little lav mic. Again, this would have cost $1,500 when new, so I would hope it's pretty good. And this is how the microphone sounds in voice isolation mode. So this is supposed to take out all the background noise and make it sound a bit less terrible. So I'm going to start clapping my hands, and you shouldn't hear much of the clapping. Okay, so I've now turned on a fan in the background and it should hopefully cancel out a bit of the noise. That's really nice to have on, but unfortunately I can't have it while filming. This is the standard mic with the fan on, so you get a bit of context on how it would sound. And then this is voice isolation with the fan turned on in the background. The fan is on max blast, by the way. But yeah, the mics do actually sound very good for a laptop. Webcam quality is fine. I mean, it's nothing that great. As you can see, it looks totally fine. When you're in a Discord call with your friends, it doesn't really matter. As long as they can see what's going on, it does look pretty good. I think it's a 720p webcam, so meh. I would rather have a cromulent webcam and a very good microphone than the other way around. In the Acer that I had beforehand, it had a 1440p webcam, which looked amazing, and a microphone that was very, very quiet. I would much rather have a better microphone, and I'm sure you would too. You do actually get portrait effects, I think. Oh no, this is just other stuff. You do get like other effects and things in the little AI thing I was showing you earlier. So you've got studio light, you've got portrait. If I was to stand there, it would only go around me. You've got these reaction things that me and my friend found hilarious. I don't know why they exist. Like, what is the point of this on a pro laptop? This one gives you like lasers. Look at that, absolutely amazing. But point is proven, the camera is pretty cromulent. Touchpad is very, very good for a laptop. I think it's one of the best you can get. It is haptic, meaning it doesn't actually click. It makes a little vibration when you press it in. I'm pretty sure this is made of glass as well. You do get all sorts of gestures with the touchpad, which are very, very useful. So you can just 3 fingers up to see all your open applications. You can turn on 3 fingers down to show all windows of current application. It's very handy. For example, I'll do Safari, 2 windows. You'll see that I get both of them come up. Going upward would show all of the programs. You also get multi-desktop support by swiping 3 fingers from both sides of the touchpad. A right click on a Mac is actually just a 2-finger click instead of a right click. If you do a right click, it just does the same as a left click. There's also a force click, which is like something a little bit different. So that opens up other little menus depending on the program you're in. I do actually find the Safari gesture quite helpful with a force click. If you force click on a link, it gives you a little preview of that link that would open. You can see my lovely video. I still cannot believe that got 500,000 views. Thank you guys so much. The touchpad is really good. The keyboard quality is also pretty damn good for a laptop. It feels nice to type on. It's definitely a keyboard and it definitely types and it sounds pretty good for a membrane. Obviously nothing will be mechanical. This is an Owler F75. I just got this. It's a very nice sounding keyboard. So if you are a heavy typer, get a mechanical keyboard. Even if you're not, get a mechanical keyboard. They are so worth it. This year was the last year for MacBooks to come out with the touch bar. Now this touch bar is a really cool addition. I do like how much customizability you get. You can press this here and it shows you more options. So you've got keyboard backlight controls, you've got mission control and stuff, your app launcher, you can play and pause media, you can change your volume, and you've got Siri there if you care about that. On the main interface, this is how I have mine set up. You've got some extra options here depending on the app you're in, so you can see it's in the Apple Music. If I click on the desktop, you'll see that there's changes to other things depending on what you're doing, so you can change to snap to grid and whatnot. I definitely like how dynamic it is. It's very useful in some cases. I'm currently in the Apple Preview application and I find this can be a very useful tool, especially with the touch bar, because you get immediate access to things like rotation, put a markup, you can change your pen, everything, the colors from the touch bar. So let's say we want a blue pen, well now I can draw in purple because I selected the wrong one. So for example, you can just press here, add text boxes. I find this very helpful when doing homework and PDF work because you just can do so much without having to click through menus at the top. So it's definitely quite handy. In other cases, it can be a bit pointless. A lot of the time I forget it's there. I only really use it for the volume, which is nice because you do get a slider, which I definitely prefer than going. The same applies to the brightness. You get a progress bar when you're listening to content or watching YouTube, etc. So it's currently playing music with the speakers muted. You can see I can skip through with the touch bar. And I can also change the song, I can skip back and forward, I can do a lot of things from the top of the screen without having to actually use the touchpad. It's very nice to have. The reason they discontinued this is because it's not that useful in the day-to-day usage. I really like this progress bar. This is handy. It can also be useful with these like writing suggestions, so you can type, it will suggest what you want to write like on your phone. That's pretty cool, and it even does emojis. So if you do sad, it will come up with a sad face. It's definitely a nice addition and I love the idea of it. But I can still see why they took it away. While it's really cool, many people will just ignore the typing suggestions, turn them off entirely with that, or just use the buttons on the screen. They don't really care. So the touch bar is definitely down to user preference, but in my opinion, it is definitely a nice addition. There are third-party tools out there too, in case you want to change up a bit more, do different things. I really like Touch Bar Pet. It is impractical, but it's really cool. You can see now in my touch bar, I've got a little person and I can give him a ball. Well, it's a little cat, I think. And there you go, he chases after it. Just little things like that, they're so cool. I love community implementations. But yeah, the touch bar is definitely down to your preference. It's a really cool feature, but it's something you might like, you might not. As for ports, the USB charging is very useful. So when you first get a laptop with USB-C charging and you already have multiple USB-C devices, especially now the iPhones have changed to it too recently, you can charge everything on one port. I'll get to it in a bit, but these are your only two ports other than a headphone jack. Nevertheless, I can charge my laptop and my phone and basically anything else with this one lead. It's definitely rather helpful. If you've not had a USB-C laptop before, that will be a massive change. Going to the ThinkPad and having USB-C on the side was so useful. That was my first laptop to actually have it. Now we're going to get onto the cons of this laptop. Some of it is in my experience, some of it is this laptop specifically, but I just thought it was worth mentioning the issues I've personally had and things you might want to look out for. So when I got this, I have had major Apple account issues, and I still do to this day. Buying it used would not let me set up an Apple account during configuration. It's just every time you do it, it says this Mac has been used way too many times to make Apple accounts, which is annoying, but it's something like, okay, well, I'll just do it on the website. Except I go and do it on the website and I don't get a message come through on my phone number. So I use another phone number. Eventually I get the account registered and it was okay for an hour. I used it to download some apps in the App Store and then the Apple account deactivated itself. No problem, I'll just remove it from the laptop and call it a day and maybe make another one another time. Except in order to remove it, you have to disable Find My Mac. To disable Find My Mac, you need your iCloud account password. You enter your iCloud account password. Oh wait, this account is not active. So I can't deactivate my deactivated account. Great, so what do you do in that situation? Your laptop is bound to an Apple ID, iCloud locking it, and you can't get it off. So I called their phone line and they said, bring it to an Apple store. Not great, considering the nearest Apple store is a couple miles away. I have to get a train there. Said, thank you very much for nothing. Got sent about 20 emails, which were completely useless. Thanks again, Apple. Decided to look it up myself. Came across an article saying, oh yeah, just run this command to terminal, it should wipe it for you. Which I tried and it worked, but I still cannot download apps in the App Store. So one step forward, two steps back. Basically, I can no longer download apps in the App Store. I have to do it all third party, but at least it's no longer locked to a broken Apple account, which was pretty scary when you spend that much money on a computer to have it almost hard bricked. Just shows Apple's anti-consumerism against using used devices yet again, but no. Long story short, if you buy a used Apple laptop, beware that you might not be able to use the App Store because it's not exactly easy sometimes. I mentioned it earlier, having soldered RAM and storage is very annoying. The 16 gigs of RAM is alright. It works really well on macOS. It feels like more than 16 gig and it lasts me through basically every app. The 256 gig storage will become a problem pretty quickly for most people. Because this is my secondary computer, I use this alongside my gaming PC. It's not a big issue for me because I can just move it all to my PC if I need to, or sync it up with my home server. But a lot of people just use a laptop as their main computer, as their only computer, and therefore having only 256 gigs is a bit annoying. Again, it's not like it's gonna ruin the laptop for me. For me, it's fine, but I know a lot of people would rather have at least 512, and because it's soldered down, you can't replace it. It's just, once it's full, you'll have to just delete stuff or move it to something else. If you do get a laptop with such low storage, I highly recommend getting an external SSD, even an external hard drive. It depends what you're using it for, but they're not that expensive, and you can just get a 1TB external SSD for less than Apple charges. I'm pretty sure Apple charge within the hundreds, and you can get an external SSD for probably less than 80 quid. One of my main complaints is the USB-C ports. As nice as it is to have USB-C everything, that's literally all you get. It's handy, but it's also annoying having to have a whole stinking USB hub everywhere you go. This is a Ugreen one, this one's great. It's got HDMI, USB-C, Ethernet, all the stuff. But having to bring that everywhere just for the basic compatibility is a pain in the backside. For me, again, fine. I mean, I'm happy to just put this in my laptop sleeve and deal with it, but I use my printer a lot of the time, and having no USB-A ports is such a nightmare. If they just gave me one USB-A 3.0 on the left-hand side, I'd be happy. That's all I'm asking for, because then I can just connect it to my printer and print without needing this in between it. It is a bit tedious to have to deal with that. Something that some people might find a bit of a pain. I'm not that bothered. Being Apple Silicon, you don't have that many options when it comes to third-party operating systems. There is some Linux support out there that you can try if you're interested, alongside your macOS install, but there's no boot camp, and it is a bit of a pain in the backside to do anything else besides what the community has made. Gaming on macOS is not going to go very well for you, considering this is a ARM CPU you, and macOS is terrible for gaming. So if you want something for games, don't buy this. Get a Steam Deck and you'll be much happier. One of my worst complaints was the fact that you can't use 2 external monitors. Like, you only have 1 external, which is rubbish. I remember seeing a Linus Tech Tips video how this is a software limitation for some reason. I think it's to encourage you to buy one of their desktop machines, but I use this occasionally docked into my PC setup. And if you haven't noticed, I have 2 monitors in my PC setup. If I was able to shut this and stick it over there, have these 2 activate and just plug this in with that dock, because this has everything you need, although HDMI can't do 144, so you would want a DisplayPort cable for that. This would be incredible for desktop computing because it's so incredibly powerful. Objection! I don't know if the more modern versions of the MacBook support that. I don't know if that's an M1 exclusive thing. I think it might be, but it's definitely worth considering if you're someone like me who likes to use a computer on a desk. Now, this is a bit of a nitpick, but I thought I might as well mention it. Because it's such a nice laptop, that is all you're getting on support on the bottom, which is fine for using it, but every time I place it down, you see how the back of the laptop is what touches the table? Like, the very back of it, the corners hit the table first. On a standard laptop, it would hit the feet because they'd be further back on the computer. So you want to place it down as gently as possible, there you go, as flat as possible, to prevent damaging the metal, because it just feels too nice to break. And it's a bit of a shame because I'm not usually the most careful with my stuff, so I just plonk it down and go, oh god, have I just smashed my screen? But as I say, that's a bit of a nitpick. It's not anything against the laptop, but Apple, please put feet just along the back of the laptop. It would make it feel so much less precarious every time I went to place it down. macOS does have quirks. For instance, when you connect an external mouse, it follows the natural scrolling of the touchpad. If you go and change the natural scrolling for the mouse, it also changes it for the touchpad. It just links it together, and I don't know why. You can get software to do it for you. That's such a day one bug that they should have fixed ages ago. Also, the side buttons on your mouse don't work properly by default. Again, you need to install a program for that. There's a lot of that with macOS. You have to get a tool that's often paid to fix basic functionality, and be prepared to find tools for every little tiny thing on your laptop. So overall then, I've gone quite in depth with the software, hardware, my general thoughts, little tiny things about the laptop. I've gone as in depth as I think I can. Obviously, you're welcome to ask any questions in the description and I'll try my best to answer them. My overall rating is probably a 7 out of 10. It's a really nice laptop, but it obviously does have its flaws. And being 5 years old, a 7 out of 10 in 2025 is pretty cromulent for an Apple device. They are known to go obsolete pretty quick because, you know, you can still run a laptop from 20 years ago that's Windows and it'll probably still work on Windows 7 just fine, but your MacBook from 2015, very hot. Despite the significant flaws, the laptop itself is flipping amazing. I'm really happy with it. For the money I paid, it feels like a brand new computer and it should hopefully last me a good 5-7 years, which is a long time with me because I'm very often upgrading stuff as I just like new tech. But this is a very good quality laptop. Tasks like media consumption, office work, you can literally do it all day and it'll be totally fine. Even if you only have an Apple laptop and no other Apple products, it will still work just fine. I've not found myself needing an Apple account except for downloading apps. If you want an Apple MacBook, go get one. I highly recommend it. MacBook Pro used, fantastic value. Can't say so much about the brand new ones because I don't really buy brand new electronics all that often, but if you want something that's a really nice workhorse, give it a go. Just don't try and game on macOS. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and a subscribe. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to leave it in the description. I will do my best to answer you as soon as I can, and I will see you all in the next one.